175 miles per hour. Pressure's ticked up just marginally. It was 906. It's now 909 millibars. Still an incredibly low pressure. In fact, at the 906, even at the 909, it is the lowest central pressure of a hurricane this late in the season in the Atlantic Basin. Really unprecedented. Very slow movement. According to the Hurricane Center, moving northwest at 2 miles per hour, but I'd make the argument, at least on the satellite here, that it's stationary at this point, 155 miles outside of Kingston, Jamaica. On the visible satellite, and now the sun is setting, we won't get these great images anymore because the sun has to be up to get the view, but you can clearly see the well-defined eye right in there, and we showed you the images from the hurricane hunters. There's the satellite view of it. That stadium effect is classic, where it's a little bit narrower at the bottom and the eye gradually opens up toward the top. And so you get this really ramped effect. So it's like a stadium, if you will. But many of the hurricane hunters that have been posting on social media today saying, and many of them have flown for years and years and years, saying this is the most impressive eye they have ever seen. That tells you something, especially for these grizzled veterans that have done this over and over and over again. I don't know if it gets really any better on the infrared satellite than at a moment it is right now. It's perfectly circular. Look at the eye wall and the eye. I mean, it doesn't get any more laminar than that, any more perfect in that 360 degrees that you get. No dimples in it, nothing. Dalton, our weather producer, is zooming in. It's about 16 miles across. And look how well formed that is. It truly is beautiful and scary at the same time. And look at the formation of it here in just the last couple of frames. You could stare at that as a weather geek, as someone that appreciates weather. You could stare at that, all day long. The wind speeds, they're getting scary, folks. They're only going to get worse from this point forward. In Kingston right now, winds are out of the southeast, 24 gusting to 36. So again, we're 155 miles away. We have some pretty gusty winds. Montego Bay, they're out of the northeast at 10. That's that counterclockwise circulation. NOAA and Air Force hurricane hunters are flying through it right now. They're basically flying right on each other's tails here. Have made passes through the eye. NOAA's done it now twice. Hurricane hunters going through it for the first time here. So we're going to get a lot more data as far as pressure, as far as wind speed goes, and maybe that'll be reflected in the 11 o'clock advisory. But here we go. Hurricane warnings highlighted in purple. Jamaica, Cuba, up through the Bahamas. Tropical storm warnings or hurricane watch extend from Hispaniola up into the Turks and Caicos. And here's that expected movement to the northeast over time, then a gradual acceleration up into the Atlantic. But over the next couple of days, from now up through Cuba, it's a pretty slow-moving system here, Dr. Nab. Slow, just maximizes the amount of time we're in the high winds, also maximizes the amount of time we're in surge, as well as the rain.
Yeah, that category slow when it's also a category 5, a bad combination. So good thing people throughout Jamaica are preparing as best they can in an island environment. It's more challenging to prepare and to recover. You can see some boarded up windows and doors in Montego Bay that's up on the northwestern side of the island, but everybody needs to be boarding up island-wide because even if you don't get category 5 winds in your spot, the strength and size of the hurricane could bring hurricane force winds just about anywhere on the island, especially when you factor in terrain. That could make the winds 30% stronger than they would be at sea level. So a couple things about the new advisory. I'll show you the details of some of the aircraft data in just a little bit. And basically, the short version is that the latest aircraft have confirmed the current strength of 175 miles an hour. This is no satellite estimate. This is continuing to be confirmed by the aircraft data. And when they put a motion on it, that's a longer-term, several-hour kind of average motion. As Mike's been showing you, it's been doing a little bit of wobbling around major hurricanes, especially in weak steering currents, because of their spinning nature at such an intense rate. They can kind of force their own kind of wobbling. And so, the Hurricane Center is not going to put out an advisory that says, well, 2 hours ago it was moving northwest at 1 mile an hour, and in the last hour it was moving southwest at 0.5 mile an hour. So they average through all that wobbling and give us a general idea. And the general idea is it will go northward slowly overnight, and the general idea is it goes northeastward slowly across Jamaica tomorrow. So you got the two aircraft, and don't worry about them running into one another because they're flying at slightly different altitudes, but they're getting generally the same information. Now, the NOAA plane is reporting flight level winds, and you got to take the wind speeds and take about 10% off of there. So they didn't get winds that correspond to surface winds that are as strong as what the Air Force, though, has confirmed. This is right at about 175 miles an hour from that instrument that remotely measures wind speeds at the ocean surface. So they're basically in that northeastern and then the southwestern eye walls confirming the current intensity of this hurricane. What we're looking for is to see if there's any sign of a concentric eye wall, that the inner one might collapse and the outer one might take over, but no sign of that. So we got to assume this is going to be either Category 4 or 5 at landfall, with the strong tropical storm force winds arriving after midnight and the hurricane force winds arriving maybe in the pre-dawn hours. And then it's an all-day hurricane. I mean, several hours of dealing with it. And remember, the terrain will make the wind speeds even stronger. And we don't know, but with all this wobbling in the process of this turn, if the worst of it could be out near the western side of the island, or the worst of it could be farther to the east near the central and increase the wind problem for Kingston. So this is still the early stages of the winds. And Alex, one thing that this map generally tells you is terrain is going to play a big role in terms of how strong your winds are. You don't have to be right near the eye to get devastating strong winds in the mountains.
And then there's the heavy rain. In fact, rain started falling in Jamaica this week and at times coming down heavily. This was Sunday. Very low visibility thanks to the heavy rain. And Melissa could be the strongest storm to hit the island of Jamaica in over half a century. NBC's George Solis is there. He's got more from Kingston on how the city is getting ready.
Yeah, we're starting to see and feel some of those impacts of some of that tropical moisture starting to creep in here. It has been rainy. It has been a little bit windy here and there, but it is starting to pick up, and we do expect that to start to ramp up here. Some residents in some of these low-lying areas that are expected to flood, especially with some of the rain forecasts, are still waiting to see if they're going to evacuate to a shelter or not. All of the emergency shelters are open here on the island. A lot of people saying we've been through this before. We've been through Gilbert. We've been through Ivan. We went through Beryl last year, and it really wasn't that bad. Now, the government here is saying, please don't fall into that false sense of security. They want everyone to have a plan in place right now. Stores are all closed. They said that the time to prepare is quickly running out. So a lot of people already in place. The road's very empty here. We have seen police, we've seen military out there making sure people are locked in place, have places boarded up. We've been talking to officials about the plans after the storm. They say they have mobilized a lot of resources, including food and water, ways to get power back on once this storm hits. Of course, a lot of Jamaicans, a lot of tourists praying this storm continues moving west because they are obviously very fearful